Good afternoon and or evening out there in Randoland. We are here with another Speed Gaming Live 2021, A Link to the Past Randomizer tournament match today between DarkenedSky and McMonkey. I'm Ben Creighton in the commentating booth, and with me is Lucian Greeth.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm excited. It should be a fun match. We were just talking in the little green room beforehand. This is an elimination match for both of these runners here today. The winner goes on to face Krithel in the next round. The loser is eliminated because both of them do have a 0-1 record thus far in this tournament. So they're playing for real stakes here today.
Yeah, and those stakes definitely heighten the tension and maybe influence their playstyles a bit.
Yes, indeed. Also, joining us here today, silent partner. Thank you to I'm gonna take a wild stab and say Aku Heish as our tracker here today. Was I even close? Who knows? Aku Hish. All right, and we're off. So, as is the case with all of our races in this particular tournament, blue mail right there in Uncle's house. That is not always the case. But what is always the case is that we start with boots, we start with sword, and we are running a modified hard item pool, which explains the presence of that blue mail there. We're going to be seeing lower health totals generally across the board due to the way health is handled in this seed.
Yep, and that blue mail is going to be the last one we see for the remainder of the seed. Armor is capped at blue mail. Red is... Both armors are in the world, but once one is found, the other is replaced with a rupee pickup.
And it looks like we got ourselves a trio of bombs there in the secret passage. Slightly less clutch in this boots assured mode where you know you're going to be able to get into the back of escape no matter what, but still a nice find. McMonkey also picking up a full magic drop from one of the green guards there.
Yeah, and having magic and bombs early on is always a nice little fallback plan if you need them.
Yeah, not likely the magic's going to become too terribly important. We don't have anything to use it with yet, but hey, you never know. Better to have it than not.
Exactly. Better have it and not need it, than need it and not have it. And magic will come into play because Ben was talking about the modified hard item pool. Half magic is gone, replaced with a small magic pickup, so magic management is going to be more paramount than usual.
Yes, indeed. Unlike the standard hard item pool that you would find on the website, half magic is not in the pool. Silver arrows are, but bows have been rendered once again non-progressive. So there is a standalone silver arrows item that, if found before the bow, will just sit there shining, mocking you from your inventory.
Yeah, it's pretty to look at, but otherwise useless.
Nice ball and chain guard strats from both of our runners here today, knocking him into that corner and saving a little bit of time. I always admire people who just wade into that ball and chain guard. I know I should do it, but I get scared and I go back for that second pot.
Yeah, I'm right with you there.
Little easier to be brave when you have that nice early blue mail, though.
That is true. Less damage taken per hit. You can get a little bit more bold with how you approach the bosses.
And no other items of particular interest here quite yet. Of course, it is still quite early. But with those early bombs, that does open up the possibility of water walking out of Lost Woods over to Ice Rod Cave. It's what's been known as the casual boot start. That's been pretty popular in this particular format. Always curious to see which runners busted out and why.
I'm actually not aware of that. That's so I'll be interested in seeing if that gets pulled off, how it's done.
Yeah, there's a water walk setup that you can do with the Lost Woods drop-down hole, and then a portal in the little pond just east of the Lost Woods. You can head over to Ice Rod Cave early, potentially link that up into a water walk play into Zora area if you're so inclined. The idea being, if you can luck out, and with that early semi-sequence break, if you can find a bottle or a flute, that is handy to have before your first trip into CAC.
Yeah, it definitely sounds. I'll have to look into that because that sounds like it's a bit of a game changer for this format for the casual boots setup.
Yeah, it's one of those things that is probably, if you were to break it down with precise math, almost certainly a little less optimal, but on the off chance you get lucky, because it's relatively uncommon, it can give you a little bit of an early advantage.
And in the end, that's what Rando's all about, isn't it?
Yep, I'm sure somebody smarter than me could program a bot to always make the mathematically optimal play every time, but we're in here to take risks, to make gambles, and see what pays out.
Exactly, and with, like you said earlier, with this being an elimination game, you wonder if maybe that will embolden one or both of the racers to maybe take more risks.
And we get an early map check over on DarkenedSky's side. We've got Captain Crunch's Oops All Crystals here in the light world. McMonkey getting that same information for himself.
Yeah, nice and easy to track crystals across the board. And the last wrinkle for this modified item pool, much like how the armor is capped at blue, the swords, all 4 swords are in the world, but once you find that tempered sword, the final sword turns into a ruby pickup. Same goes for the shields, capped at the basic fighter shield, and the rest is a ruby pickup.
That's right. Also capped are bottles, capped at 2, and unlike in the vanilla randomizer settings, will always be empty when they are found.
Looks like just a piece of heart on Lumberjack, so jury's out on Aga, but nothing pointed to him yet.
DarkenedSky opting to leave the visible piece of heart behind in the Lost Woods. That's a pretty standard maneuver. Save yourself a little bit of time, but because most of the heart containers, all but 3 of them, have been removed from this item pool, pieces of heart become more valuable than you're accustomed to. Especially since health, unlike the other items, is not capped, in which all of the pieces of heart and heart containers are in the pool and just converted into garbage items. Those extra health pieces have actually been removed, so if you leave them behind, that's left behind forever, and you are accepting a lower heart total in the end game by leaving that behind.
Yeah, and in this item pool, health scales a little more naturally along the course of the game, rather than leaving Kakariko with possibly 6 hearts. And Blind's Hut has a bit of a treasure trove.
Yep, I saw a blue cane, I saw a hammer, and I saw a lamp.
Yeah, and a hammer especially opens up a lot of late game routing possibilities.
Absolutely. It's always nice to see as the first part of that Dark World access puzzle, because you know you're going to have that early Hype Cave access. You know that you're not going to have to worry about orphaning an item in Thieves Town. It's just real nice to have.
Yeah, I've had a lot of games go sideways from hammer hunts.
Looks like we're also seeing a shovel and one of the only 3 heart containers. Always nice to find that early. But yeah, that lamp is also always a nice early find, just because we tend to poo-poo the lamp. Ah, who needs it? We all know our dark rooms. But it's still a fire source, and that opens some stuff up in the early game.
On the flip side of that, though, it could also be a potential... well, no, we got gloves now, so Aga for Dark World access is looking pretty slim at this point.
Yep, we're looking for that moon pearl, and it can always be on Pyramid Ledge. You can never be 100% sure, but not looking too terribly likely that we're going to see an Aga Seed today.
And there's our Titan's Mitts.
Speaking of rude spots that the moon pearl can hide, can we get a flute and a mirror and find that fabled checkerboard cave moon pearl? Is this going to be that seed?
Oh, I've been there before. It feels bad.
And that was a bottle there in library. I'll be interested to see if either of our 2 runners turn around. And yep, looks like McMonkey's going to turn that in right now and see what Lazy Kid has in store for us.
This could be a good early play if Sick Kid's got something. Just a shield, unfortunately.
Yep, DarkenedSky also making that same check, and not that it's my place to judge. These these guys are both talented runners who can make their own decision, but it's a play I agree with.
Definitely, you got the ball. You're right there. It's what 5-10 seconds to get back to Sick Kid. It's to me it feels like a no-brainer.
Yeah. So early in the seed, you don't want to be the guy who left that behind, only to find 20 minutes later that it had some important progression.
Fancy little bit of item dashing from McMonkey there.
Yep, and DarkenedSky also showing off that same tech. It's just there for swag. It doesn't do anything unless you roll over the dig spot with it, in which case you got a screen transition to make it give up your item. But no such problems today. We've got the Moon Pearl and Dark World access barely 10 minutes into this seed.
Yep, so Aga could still logically be required to get over to Eastern Dark World, but I'm assuming players of this caliber know their current jumps.
Well, with hammer in hand, they won't need to worry about that.
Yeah, that's my bad. I forgot the Palace of Darkness warp.
Yeah, this is always a fun situation. Always a fun situation where we have both Hammer and Titan's Mitts before finding the Moon Pearl, because it just opens up routing so nicely and gives us the potential for maybe a little divergence in... I mean, it's 12 minutes, I shouldn't say, in what's been a linear seed. Like, of course it has, but you feel me, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first, 10-15 minutes of any given rando or is going to be quote-unquote linear. But with this many options, once they finish out the route in Ice Rod Cave, if they choose to go there, the world's pretty much their oyster as far as checks go.
And the mini Moldorms today are hiding a second bottle. Another couple pieces of heart. But other than that little bit of extra safety, not a whole lot today. And here's our first little bit of divergence. DarkenedSky is heading off in the direction of Ice Rod Cave. Meanwhile, McMonkey says, I've got Dark World access. What else do I want? I'm going to check out Hype Cave.
Yeah, and both plays are good. Cause, how many times have you been burned by Ice Rod Cave having something? And meanwhile, McMonkey side, you go where the density is.
Yep, and it looks like we've got a green pendant Swamp Palace. Pendants also in Pod and Turtle Rock today. With red crystals in Mire and Thieves. And I'm going to rely on our eagle-eyed tracker to correct me if I got any of that wrong.
Looks like McMonkey picks up a Master Sword out of Hype Cave.
And sure enough, DarkenedSky is continuing his trek using some water walk tech here. He's less than 100 away from being able to pay the scam fish. With a lucky drop here or in Waterfall Cave, this might get pretty interesting.
Oh, that's 20.
But yeah, he's going to save and quit out of here, which is, I think, a very understandable move. It's a long swim back for a couple of checks that 2/3 of them are out of logic anyway. I always really like this play because it's one of the faster ways to route in Hobo, but I don't think it makes much sense to spend much time on out of logic checks after that.
Exactly. And with the Mire pickup, you can always route that in with a catfish, God forbid, check later on.
Absolutely. Whereas those are checks that if you make them early, you're running a real risk of orphaning catfish, and that's a move that can lose your races if you're not careful.
Yeah, sometimes it's those really out of the way places like Ice Rod Cave, catfish that can just really burn a seed. It looks like McMonkey's giving us a look at hammer pegs.
Yeah, this is a check that usually gets routed in with the Smith chain, but I don't hate knocking it out a little early. It's not that far out of your way, and you'd really like to have that mirror to do Smith chain, so it can make sense to split this one check out of the rest of that little chunk that is hopefully skippable anyway.
Yeah, that's good. Because like I said, you would really like that mirror for Smith chain. I also wouldn't be surprised if McMonkey just hops into Thieves Town with these Village of Outcast checks.
Yep, and I'd be surprised if DarkenedSky doesn't do the same once he's caught up with him. DarkenedSky spent that little bit of extra time making that Hobo and Ice Rod Cave check, so he's just a couple of screens behind there, but with a couple of extra checks to his name. But fully clearable in Logic Crystal Dungeon. There's not much reason to bypass Thieves Town at this point.
Especially with the hammer. So you've got full clear, it's crystal, you're in the neighborhood, knock it out. I missed that. Was that the small magic pickup in hammer pegs?
I missed it as well. The small magic, of course, is what replaces the half magic item in this modified hard item pool.
Yeah, and with having both bottles on hand already, I don't see magic management being a huge detriment.
Yep, of course, with all bottles in this mode starting empty, the trick is less finding the bottle and more when do you find the time to fill it, especially if you don't find a nice convenient flute to just flute you right over to 2.
Best guess be the Hope and Pray RNG helps you on a waterfall or pyramid fairy check.
Yep, also has the happy knock-on effect of making that bug net a slightly more powerful safety to find. Ooh, McMonkey, I'm pretty sure he did get the correct pixel to dash the Hellway there, but unfortunately, even if you get it exactly right, sometimes RNG just doesn't want to cooperate. But I love the reflexes of realizing it, stopping, avoiding taking the damage with only 6 hearts to its name. Every little bit of damage is gonna be significant.
Yeah, especially those crickets upcoming, because those things hit surprisingly hard.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad with blue mail, but even still, 6 hearts is 6 hearts. And moving on down into Blind Cell. Haven't seen that small key yet, but of course with hammer in hand, it wouldn't matter if we did.
I'm guessing McMonkey's been counting his items, because he is skipping right past that chest.
Yeah, you know, I was just about to comment that I haven't been, so I'm going to trust that McMonkey knows what he's doing and was able to shave a little time there, knowing that it's just going to be a map or compass, or the small key leading to a map or compass. But we'll be able to get confirmation on that when DarkenedSky goes in there, because if he skips it too, I can believe that one talented runner makes a mistake. It happens to all of us. 2 talented runners making the same mistake in the same seed is pretty rare.
And a beautifully done blind script by McMonkey. Pulls it off without a hitch.
Yes, indeed. And that was the compass on blind. I'm going to go ahead and assume that that was the map that he skipped there.
Yeah, I would be willing to bet on that. Oh, Sleepy in chat's telling us that the Hammer Peg Cave was just a red big 20.
And McMonkey, at least for the moment, is going to be bypassing Skull Woods. This is one of those little issues of routing that everybody has an opinion on. When do you go in and do the front of Skull? When do you skip it? Or do you just go in all the time? In this case, McMonkey checked that bumper ledge, and he is going to turn around and go back in.
Saw it on DarkenedSky's side. The big chest was indeed a map, so a little bit of nice time saving by McMonkey for the heads-up play to skip past it.
Yes, indeed. Every little bit of time that you can save adds up over the course of the seed, so it's that little bit of heads-up play saved him a couple screen transitions. It's not nothing.
Yep, at the moment, McMonkey has a small but considerable lead. Close call and smartly pulling out the cane before catastrophe strikes.
Yep, DarkenedSky spending a little bit more time on that blind fight, letting it get off script, but you know what takes up more time than that? A death. So good job whipping out that blue cane and making that final phase easy on himself.
Oh, we found the bow in Skull Woods.
Yes, indeed. So that makes Eastern a pretty obvious next spot to go. You do occasionally see runners trying to put that off, hoping to get the mirror and route it in with Pod, although today Pod is a pendant, so you can hope to be able to skip it altogether.
And the flippers as well, so Skull Woods was the place to be.
Yep, not going to give McMonkey the advantage for long, though. DarkenedSky is going to go in there shortly after him.
Yep, and you're right. Looks like McMonkey is heading over to Saha's Closet and Eastern Palace.
Yep, I'm a big believer in that ABCD, always be clearing crystal dungeons, and it looks like McMonkey is too, unless you've got a really strong reason to go elsewhere. Couple pieces of heart and the Bombos medallion there both Turtle Rock and Misery Mire being crystals, every medallion you find is just a little bit more peace of mind of not getting stuck in a go situation.
That's a bit of a rough break for DarkenedSky. Statue just a slight bit off to the left.
Yep, and unfortunately, once you've got it into that narrow little corridor, you can't really correct its left-right orientation. Ooh, snagged by the Wallmaster for a second time. He's taking it with good grace, though, we can see in the webcam, just laughing it off. Love the positive attitude.
Yeah, and that's a lesson I learned early on. Just keep it cool and keep on going.
Absolutely. It's really easy to imagine that your opponent is making no mistakes, but everybody makes them. Doesn't matter how good you get. So you just got to be able to not let one mistake tilt you into making more. Meanwhile, McMonkey is just flying through Eastern, one of our nice, easy early dungeons, and a dungeon that really benefits from having the boots, which is kind of ironic considering that in the vanilla game, it's the only one that you would not have the boots for. Meanwhile, DarkenedSky grabs his flippers and he's taking a death warp, so we might get a little more divergence here if he's planning on leaving Skull Woods and proceeding with some of that Northern Dark World stuff. Could head over to Catfish.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Bumper Ledge to King's Tomb to Catfish.
Yeah, he won't be able to get King's Tomb without the mirror, at least not with this route. And yeah, he's just checking Bumper Ledge and he's going to peace out at this point.
I guess that mirror is important if you want to, move between worlds.
McMonkey pulling a compass from the vanilla big key of Eastern. Another one of those controversial skips that you can make. The infamous 50-50 Eastern Palace skip. If you know there's only one item left, you can gamble that it's on Armos, so potentially a spot for DarkenedSky to pick up some time, although that's another one of those skips that's pretty scary for me personally, unless I know I'm only an item or two from go mode and can be willing to suck it up and leave it all the way behind if it does turn out to be an item.
Yeah, like early on in the game too, if things don't fall neatly into place, that can be in the back of your mind the entire game.
Yeah, sometimes it's less about the time you spend and more about the free real estate that skip check has staked out in your brain. McMonkey getting the quick kill on the Armos, beautifully done. Really showing that that slight execution edge on boss fights here that can really make a difference over the course of a seed.
Yeah, being able to control a boss and end it quickly can always be one of the biggest time savers you can do.
And let's see where McMonkey goes from here. Speaking of King's Tomb, he did just save and quit out to Sanctuary, and yep, that does seem to be where he's headed.
Makes sense, it's right there. No reason not to check it.
And I'm trying to think what his other options are from here. He can climb the mountain, although only a couple checks up there. He could proceed over to Zora area.
Yeah, you can. There's what, 4 checks up there with Zora and Waterfall. Might not be a bad place to check.
Yep, it looks like he does have his eyes on the mountain, where we've got the old man cave, the inside of Spectacle Rock. He can check what's on top, but not pick it up yet. And then Spike Cave would be his other option. So three checks this way versus 4 over in Zora's direction. Although if he were to go towards Zora, he'd have to be trying to farm up those last couple of rupees to hit that 500, which would then lock him out of pod until he gets another 110. So even with fewer checks, this may be the safer option.
Yeah, that's a good way to hedge your bets. And there's that small magic. So Old Man in a regular playthrough would have had the half magic upgrade, but in this mode, no such thing exists.
Meanwhile, DarkenedSky still trailing by just a little bit, largely by virtue of that longer blind fight and 1 or 2 extra overworld checks. Does go ahead and get that compass, which that would have been a pretty spicy skip if you went for it. So I'm not too terribly surprised.
No, that's usually a check I make almost all the time, unless I'm like 99% in the clear. And the silver arrows were on top of Spectacle Rock.
Yep, nice to know that they'll be available for the Ganon fight, if absolutely nothing else. But Vortex of Doom over here in chat is incensed that McMonkey left behind Spike Cave while on that mountain climb.
Well, we'll see how prophetic Vortex's warning is later on.
Yep, I'm fairly sure the two of them are on the same league team, so Vortex is allowed to castigate his teammate in chat.
Yeah, I don't see any reason, unless you're feeling the heat. Those silvers are gonna be right in front of Hera. You're gonna be going up for Hera and Turtle Rock at some point anyway, so the silvers would not be an inconvenient check. But at the same time, like I said, it is a check, and all checks eat up at least some time.
Yeah, I mean, Spike Cave is a relatively lengthy check, and it does tend to sap one's magic meter if you've got plans for that, although can't think of much that would be that he would have his magic earmarked for.
Yeah, you're hoping with Ice Palace being a pendant that Cold Stare doesn't factor into the equation. And so the only other real magic sink left in this game would be Trinex.
Yep, but right now, it looks like both of our runners are converging here on the Zora checks. McMonkey having picked up that extra 300 in Ice Rod Cave, both in good financial standing. And let's see what the Fairy Fountain has. It's a freebie!
The bees! Yeah, DarkenedSky wants nothing to do with that bee.
Oh man, you gotta save that. What else are you gonna use to fight Moth?
Oh, I guess DarkenedSky's just gonna have to do it the hard way.
But the Zora era's coming up pretty dry. A very expensive piece of heart, earning a frustration slash from DarkenedSky, and a trash item replacing one of the capped shields on the ledge there.
Well, Scamfish is gonna scam. Let's see where DarkenedSky is heading.
I would tend to assume Pod. It looks like McMonkey went ahead and used the portal south of Link's house, probably planning to, oh? I was gonna say probably planning to route in a pyramid ledge check, but I guess not.
It's interesting to see two players line up like this, well, I won't say halfway into a seed, but this deep in, to see them right on each other's steps.
Yeah, I mean, so far we've had, it's one of those seeds where it's not actually strictly linear. There's been the opportunity for divergence, but not a whole lot of incentive for it, plus or minus a couple of relatively minor detours like the trip up the mountain.
Yeah, at this point, I would imagine, with Pod being the most dense place left, you figure there's probably going to be at least something in here.
Yeah, it's I believe 5 checks, fully clearable, all in logic. It's about as dense as you could want, and there's the book.
Yep, so Desert Palace is open for business. But just like with Pod and Eastern, most players would prefer a Mire to route it, loop in Mire and Desert.
Absolutely, and once you've spent the time to get into Pod, especially this early in the seed, when there is still a lot of progression yet to find, if you come in here, you're almost certainly full clearing.
Definitely, at least up until Helma, if you're counting your items. And both players missing a shot in the Mimic Room.
And the rule with Pod key logic is you can never have more than 2 non-small key items in the front of Pod. That was the big key, which along with that book means the rest of the items in the front here are all going to be small keys, meaning one can safely skip the vanilla big key chest. McMonkey trying to show off a fun bit of tech where you lay that bomb and drop in the hole to warp back to the entrance a little quicker. Unfortunately, misses it.
Looks like we're having a fair bit of divergence in pod routing here.
Yeah, unfortunately, DarkenedSky apparently didn't know or forgot about that particular quirk of pod logic. That vanilla big key chest was guaranteed to be a key for a key situation where you spend a key to get a key.
And as we all know, pendant pod, always the answer. Not really. Sometimes.
Well, in this seed it is. That was the fire rod, which is going to be required, and as an added bonus, tempered sword, pretty much the best safety left.
Looks like DarkenedSky is giving us a hammer yump.
Well, he's going to give it a try at least. This is one of those tricky bits of tech that, in this situation with this key layout, does save you a little bit of time, couple of screen transitions, but only if you get it done quickly, which unfortunately is giving Sky a little bit of trouble here.
And I wasn't counting items, but I'm guessing McMonkey, again, was and knows more than us. Either choosing not to invest the time to go fight Helma, figure he has enough, or Helma just has map or compass.
I think we saw both map and compass. I'm fairly sure that Helma does have an item. That is a pretty time-consuming check with so much else on your plate, though, and McMonkey has decided to head to Desert, where we see the red cane there on Desert Ledge.
Which is vital, necessary to do Mire, so that's practically hiding the cane right under Mire's doorstep, or doormat.
Yep, of course, we're going to need that flute before we can get into Mire, plus potentially one of the 2 medallions that we don't have yet, so that red cane not going to do much for us quite yet, but always nice to have one more bit of progression in your back pocket for later. Meanwhile, Darkened Took an unfortunate, apparently unintentional death there in the dark maze. You'll sometimes see runners try to cut their losses and peace out after a death like that. It's a good thing he didn't. He went back in, he finished his clear, and he got rewarded for it.
Looks like Darkened Sky is continuing the march to Helma. So depending on what Helma has, this could be a very important play here.
Yeah, it's the biggest bit of divergence we've seen so far. Unlike the other checks that have been skipped up until this point, this is the sort of thing where that's McMonkey's last location, almost certainly. If something's there, that's a big deal.
Definitely. So this could, this check has potential to flip the entire game. Yeah, this could be a Hail Mary right here.
Yep, and I'm looking from his perspective, what does he need for go mode? He needs that ice rod, potentially needs 1 or even 2 medallions. He's going to need that mirror, he's going to need that flute, going to need that hook shot. We know where the red cane is, but he doesn't. So from his perspective, he's at least 5 items from go mode, maybe 6. So this is not a crazy play to make, even as time-consuming as it is. Chat pointing out that with Swamp Palace being a pendant, depending on what kind of dark sorcery Darkened Sky is into, he may not strictly need it to complete the seed. That's going to depend on whether anything's hiding in Swamp Palace.
Oh, unfortunately, it's just some bombs on Helma.
Yep, so that's a little bit of time that McMonkey's gained with that calculated risk, shall we say. But certainly not an insurmountable lead for Darkened Sky to try to make up. We're only 42 minutes into this seed, plenty of rando left to play.
Definitely. We're McMonkey's 3 crystals in, there's plenty of game left. Looks like Darkened Sky is following McMonkey's lead and taking that book right to Desert.
Yeah, you would certainly like to route this in with Mire if you can, but in a situation like this where at minimum this play is going to get you a crystal, anything else that you might try, well, in fact, McMonkey is about to head for the other thing that will give you that as well, which is the Skull Wood play, it's looking like here. But I do believe we saw both items out of Skull Woods, so... It'll get you a crystal, but it's not going to get you much else.
Yeah, we got both our items. Those bow and flippers and Skullwoods.
Yeah. So... No. Yeah, in fact, this is... I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's a bit of a weird decision just because you do know that you're going to get Flute sooner or later, which is going to save you just a couple of screens dashing over from Sank. And there's really no particular reason to do this now as opposed to later. Unless, is this one of our red crystals? I suppose you could be... Well, but the other red crystal's Mire, so I guess that doesn't quite track either. Of course, it could be no more complicated than, you know what, I have to do this anyway. It's something I can kind of do on autopilot. Well, I spend my brain power plotting my next move. And there's definitely something to be said for that.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking too. So, buy yourself a little bit of time to come up with a game plan while you do something you know you can clear and is needed to beat the game. Cleaving right through Mothula.
Hey, I'm sorry, I blinked. Was there a moth in that room at one point?
One would think, but I couldn't tell. It's no respect for Mothula whatsoever.
And he's walking out of Skull Woods, which is a bit of a time-consuming endeavor. I'm wondering where he's planning to go from here. Might be heading back down to head towards Smith Chain.
Yeah, that's... could be it. Ice Palace, it looks like it's on the table. Although as a pendant, you kind of don't want to, but it is there for the taking.
Yeah, it's really never going to get much more attractive than right now. You've got a reasonable amount of safety for the talent of these particular runners, and you've got the red cane for Icebreaker to make the whole thing much more painless.
So I'm trying to think, 'cause Hera and Turtle Rock are both locked by Mire or Hookshot. Pod is a pendant. Swamp House is locked by Mire. Mire's locked by Flute, so there's not a whole lot of options here.
Yeah, it's really down to Ice Palace or this Smith Chain at this point. Or Overworld checks in this case. The Catfish is not traditionally considered part of Smith Chain, but sometimes Rando works in mysterious ways.
I'm wondering, I don't want to speak evil into this seed, but all three pendants are logically clearable right now. It makes you wonder just a little bit.
Well, we're still going to need that mirror for Swamp Palace. That's when Ped's going to come into play.
Oh yeah, that's I'm getting a bit ahead of myself.
And just a trio of blueberries there on Catfish. And it looks like Jeremiah is getting a world tour in the opposite direction to which he is accustomed, as McMonkey continues on to, I'm presuming, Pyramid.
And Jeremiah just wants to go home, and unfortunately he's being taken on a road trip.
Meanwhile, DarkenedSky is heading up the mountain. Let's see if we're going to see this Spike Cave check. Speaking of skips, that's something that McMonkey left behind earlier. If that winds up being something like, say, that mirror leading into Swamp Palace, and indeed into the rest of the mountain, that could be huge.
Definitely. If it's, mirror or hookshot, that opens up TR and Hera for completion. Nice little bit of swag play there by DarkenedSky. And no, Spike Cave goes ignored by both players.
Let's see what the blacksmith holds for us today. Just 20 bucks. Dwarven rupee smiths today.
A net profit of 10 rupees, because they take 10, give you 20.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that the smiths actually do charge a nominal fee. It's one of those little bits that it's such a negligible amount that you forget all about it until you're in, say, an inverted seed, get access to it early, and wind up going in with less than 10 bucks to your name, and then you kick yourself.
Which I also think is pretty rude, Jeremiah. You know, you saved him from Dark World, and he still charges you $10.
I mean, he's got to charge for materials. Labor's free.
Yeah, it looks like McMonkey's making the Ice Palace play, which at this point, not a whole lot left.
Yep, DarkenedSky is also heading over to Catfish, gonna get his share of disappointment, and then we'll see whether he follows suit. These runners have been following largely the same path with a couple of detours and just really swapping the lead back and forth between them. Wonderful bomb strats in the Pengator room from McMonkey. That's one of the quicker ways to handle that room and less equipment dependent than any other way. And it's really not that tricky, but you can't wing it. That's something you've got to practice.
Looks like we might be getting the Spike Cave check from DarkenedSky.
And ironically, with Ice Palace being the other play, the other obvious play after this, if he does burn through all this magic, well, he's going to have to. That does put him in a bit of an awkward situation if he does have to go after Ice Palace after this. Moment of truth, just a piece of heart.
Yeah, a lot of these gamble plays are unfortunately just not paying off. Yeah, and these are all checks you want to make. Unfortunately, it's just, that's the nature of the beast sometimes with Rando. Sometimes the play you want to work doesn't work.
Yep, Spleeby in chat bringing up a good point, which is that DarkenedSky could have, since he got to the mountain via a save and quit to the old man, could have done a hard reset to refill his magic. On the other hand, looks like he might be going after a smith play of his own.
Yeah, meanwhile, McMonkey finds the hookshot in Pendant Ice Palace. And the flute.
Ooh. Ice Palace holding all the goods today.
Yeah, the pendant dungeons are definitely paying off.
So right now we've got 2 required medallion dungeons that are both a question mark at this point. And beyond that, we've got an ice rod hunt.
Good old-fashioned ice rod hunt.
But with the entire east side of the mountain, both light and dark, still a mystery, that's a whole lot of density where those missing items could still be hidden. I'd be pretty surprised if we didn't see the Mire play before that, though, because if you can... Right now, Mire is... At the very least, you want that information. What medallion do I need? And if it is full clearable, maybe you only have to climb the mountain one more time.
Then the Mire Shed's always a nice, quick little check.
Yep. I know it's just confirmation bias, but it feels like half the time you have, for example, Quake as your Mire entrance requirement, and then the key winds up being under the doorstep anyway.
Yeah, it's my experience in the few months I played this game that Misery Mire always finds new and creative ways to hurt me.
Yep, but alright, we are going to need that Quake at minimum. But fortunately, that's the other nice thing about Mire, is that it's a dungeon that's not that painful to get back to. You flute to 7, you 6. You flute to wherever it is. It's fine. Meanwhile, DarkenedSky opening the purple lunchbox. This is a check that McMonkey has yet to do.
Yeah, and so far everything's fallen pretty neatly into place for McMonkey. You kind of hope to see one of these, and unfortunately just another piece of heart.
Yeah, DarkenedSky prioritizing a lot of these awkward one-off checks before trying to make the big play to Ice Palace, but it looks like that is going to be his final destination here. As it should be, because I don't think he has much left.
Nothing that I can think of offhand. And go ahead, sorry.
That was a cape and the ether medallion. Not the medallion that we're looking for necessarily, although we've still yet to learn what's going to get us into Turtle Rock.
Yeah, at this point you just basically do a full clear of the mountain at your leisure. Hope your missing medallion and Ice Rod turn up along the way.
Oh, and I've been No, never mind. I was about to say I've been forgetting Mire, but no, I haven't, because Swamp is a pendant. Mire would be a nice to have for some of this mountain routing, but not a need to have this seed.
Alright, looks like we're heading to the Tower of Hera, and I imagine McMonkey will be taking the express elevator to the top.
Yep, just a $5 rupee piece in that first basement.
McMonkey's leaving Hera.
Yep, McMonkey is setting up for this Hera pot. There is... This game's source code is dark sorcery that I don't claim to understand, but what I do know is when a drop happens in this room, such as the fairy that he just picked up, if you do not wait for it to settle onto the ground before picking it up, which of course a fairy will never do, it messes up a variable that makes the Hera pot impossible. Which you can reset by just leaving the dungeon and going back in again. So good heads-up game knowledge by McMonkey there.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard about that from, I think it was Espion who told me about it once.
The only reason I know about it is because when I was trying to learn Hera pot, I did a save state in the practice ROM in which that variable was already messed up. And I got so frustrated. I'm doing it just like the video says. What's wrong with me? And I had to go to the Discord and make a little clip and ask people for help. And fortunately, we have a wonderful, welcoming, helpful community here. Somebody was available to tell me, oh, well, here's your problem.
Yeah, it's a very good community, very supportive, very uplifting. Always willing to help. Oh, and McMonkey averts disaster with Moldorm pushing him back. Almost gets stuck in the ledge.
Yep, but unfortunately, chat has noticed something that you and I have both missed, which is that DarkenedSky pieced out of Ice Palace after grabbing his hook shot, meaning he left that flute behind.
Oh, no.
And, you know, it's hard to blame him. He's got to be feeling behind. He's been spending so much time on overworld checks. He's got to think, I've got to shave any time off that I can. This hookshot opens up so much. There's only one more dungeon, one more item left in this dungeon. It's pretty safe to peace out. But we know it wasn't safe for him to peace out.
That is very unfortunate. Oh, but breaking out the hover strats. It's a nice bit of show off. Oh, that's very unfortunate, because very rarely do you dip Ice Palace twice.
Yep, and as chat's pointing out, if that mirror does rear its ugly head, that opens up a long green pendant Swamp Palace full clear before he's even thinking about going back into ice. He needs to have all of his options taken away from him and force him to go back there if he's to have a chance in this race. And chat bringing up another good point. Without that mirror, McMonkey has gone into the Dark World through the South Death Mountain portal, which means he's going to be able to check the Turtle Rock entrance requirement, but he is, assuming it is one of the two medallions that he has, he's not going to be able to mirror out to actually open it up.
Yep, and that's going to be another time-consuming trip up the mountain, if so. I mean, it's going to be another trip up the mountain regardless.
And that was the powder there in Hookshot Cave. I seem to recall a song about a fetch quest and whether you'd like to do it.
Be pretty entertaining if the powder brought up the Quake medallion and Quake was also for Turtle Rock.
Well, we're about to find out one part of that. It is Ether, so Turtle Rock is accessible with all of its checks clearable except for Trinex, who requires that ice rod.
We got ourselves an ice rod hunt.
McMonkey does remember Spike Cave. He's not going to find the goods in there, but it'll be a load off his mind at least.
Yeah, there's one thing I've learned playing this game so far is that everyone loves ice rod hunts. So we'll see where the ice rod rears its head.
Yeah, it does love to hide somewhere in Turtle Rock itself, and that would be the spot that's available to us with quite a bit of item density left. So it would be not at all uncommon to see runners rushing Turtle Rock even without that ice rod to complete it. But McMonkey's going to show us maybe it's Maybe the batter's got it in his little satanic altar down here.
Yeah, I want to know the lore behind this thing. Maybe it's something the blacksmith built.
Look, those blacksmiths are into some weird stuff, man. But as chat rightly pointing out, it's not technically an ice rod hunt until we see that quake. We are still 2 items from go mode at the moment.
That's true. Well, maybe how do you think Jeremiah got stuck in the Dark World? That altar did it to him.
Makes as much sense as anything. He said the wrong thing to Baphomet and it got cast aside.
McMonkey having an unfortunate run-in with Dead Rock there. Dead Rocks are nobody's favorite enemy in this game. Although if I would like to be proven wrong, I would like to meet someone whose favorite enemy is the Dead Rock. I just want to find out what's going on with that.
I mean, I think we know who hates the most, and that's the witch. She's the one who created the powder. That's the only thing that can kill them.
Dead Rock's probably ruined one of her runs up the mountain. She swore the rest of her life to destroy them.
Don't mess with that witch, man. Give her all the mushrooms she wants. Keep her happy. She'll do some bad things to you.
This has turned into a lore discussion, a Link to the Past.
Welcome back to A Lore to the Past, our Link to the Past lore podcast. Also, there's a race happening, but it's one that makes us sad because DarkenedSky pieced out of Ice Palace without finding that flute that he's going to need to complete this seed.
Chat pointing out Quake also can kill Dead Rocks, and who happens to be fairly close to each other, although technically a world apart, Catfish and Witch.
That's true. Maybe they used to work together. And then, once again, that Catfish just said something really offensive to that witch. She cast him into the Dark World for his sins.
See, this is just my personal headcanon, but maybe the Catfish was the witch's original assistant. And that's the assistant we see is the new one. And both players technically right on top of each other, but unfortunately, that flute is in Ice Palace, unchecked by DarkenedSky, so it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, we're... At this point, we're just hoping that the mirror does not rear its ugly head here in Turtle Rock. That would be the big thing that could pull DarkenedSky even further away from what he needs to find here. Essentially, we need to have this be any kind of a race. We need that mirror to be locked in GT. DarkenedSky does find Quake. Not going to do him much good without that flute. But that's going to make... Oh, and in fact, McMonkey takes that Quake and he says, you know, I'm just gonna go knock out Mire real quick.
I like it. Kind of hedging your bets. You know you can finish Misery Mire. You don't know you can finish Turtle Rock. You kind of had your bets.
Yeah, and you know you're going to need to do it costs you an extra mountain climb, except that you were gonna need to do that to get to GT anyway. So it's worst case scenario, it's not really gonna cost him much. And best case scenario, if Ice Rod's in Mire, that saves him a whole lot of backtracking through Turtle Rock. So when you think about it, really heads up play. I like it the more I think about it.
Yeah, definitely. If there's a downside to that, I can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it commits you to as deep as you've already gotten in Turtle Rock. You are going to have to backtrack that. So I think you described it really well as a hedge your bets play. You're going to lose X amount of time for the chance of not losing X plus Y amount.
Like, the only potential downside to this is if Ice Rod was in Turtle Rock, but it's not a... Like I said, it's hedging your bets. You know you can finish Mire. You don't know you can finish Turtle Rock, so just go where you can.
Yeah, and as Scoopel points out, on the off chance that Mirror is in Mire and Ice Rod is in Mimic Cave, then that's huge.
Yeah, definitely. Mimic Cave is one of those places that doesn't turn up too often with something important, but when it does, oh boy.
But Sky now heading deeper into Turtle Rock than McMonkey got. Gonna give us some new checks here. So new checks coming in hot and heavy on both sides of the screen.
Yeah, we're about to see just how heads up of play McMonkey made. Nice laser skill spot on DarkenedSky's side.
Oop, gets bodied by a laser there and decides to quit fooling around and whip out that blue cane. And that Ice Rod is not in Turtle Rock.
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, he doesn't know it, but definitely the right call by McMonkey to bail out early.
Yup, and hey, what were we just saying? While we were focused on laser skips, McMonkey found the mirror here in Mire. It's a Mire mirror.
Nice little bit of rail clipping, too. You don't see that too often. Always fun to see pulled off.
Yeah, it's one of those really situational little bits of tech that doesn't necessarily even save you that much time, but it's so swag. I just love looking at it. But of course, now chat brings up the next question. Okay, you went down to Mire, you found the mirror. You're going to get out of here, and when you do you go back up to Turtle Rock and hope that that Ice Rod is on Laser Bridge or in Mimic Cave? Or do you take that mirror and go into Swamp Palace?
That is a tough call. I don't think either one has I don't think that has a correct answer. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll see what McMonkey does. His instincts have been really good all race. I think I would lean towards going to Swamp. I've made my choice to peace out of Turtle Rock. I'm gonna stick with it, but that's a spicy choice no matter which way you make it.
I will say DarkenedSky is heading back into Ice Palace, so he is going to find his flutes.
Yep, he's gonna be quite a bit behind, but until that Ice Rod rears its head, it is still anybody's race.
But yeah, like you said, it's one of those things. Like instinct might make you go back to a rock, but if Swamp Palace, I forgot what you said. But you can understand the thought process either way, if it's Swamp Palace or Turtle Rock. Because Swamp Palace is definitely more accessible and has more checks, but if you can find that Ice Rod on the way to Trinex, that's always great.
And in answer to a question in chat, we did find all 3 items in Ice Palace, or rather McMonkey did, and DarkenedSky is about to. The only other potential value from Ice Palace would be if the pendant leads to an Ice Rod on pedestal.
And that's the dream right there.
Certainly if you're rooting for DarkenedSky, you need this seed to drag out to give him a chance to make up some of this gap here.
Yeah, because he would have the advantage of already having killed Helma. And looks like my monkey's heading towards Swamp Palace, which I 100% get. Again, hedging your bets, you don't want to get 99% of the way through Turtle Rock and realize that last 1% is. Looks like he's doing some mirror checks.
Yeah, certainly. Before you commit to that Swamp Palace play, it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and knock this out. Check the Desert Tablet. But Swamp Palace has what? 6 checks, 7 counting the green pendant, plus this, plus Bombo's tablet. That's 9 checks versus what? 4, I think, that are left in Turtle Rock. So if you gotta roll the dice, this is the odds-on play.
Yeah, that's like I said, and like I said, it's so much more accessible than Turtle Rock. Because you think on top of 4 checks, you're also committing to a full mountain climb on top of it. And then another mountain climb if you're wrong.
Yep. Yeah. Triple dipping Turtle Rock if you didn't have to is, oof.
Alright, so DarkenedSky takes his flute, goes immediately to Misery Mire.
Chat bringing up another good point. There is Pyramid Fairy to consider as well, which is an easy route in after Swamp Palace here. But McMonkey's leaving his portal behind. He's going to go ahead and check what's in this mushroom. Let's see what that witch, if you displease her, she turns you into a catfish, sends you to the dark world. See what happens if you're nice to her. Just a Pizza Hut.
Yeah, in case you missed it, this has been a SGL race / deep lore discussion.
Yep, and it looks like DarkenedSky was just barely under enough mana to actually use that Quake Medallion and get into Mire. Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, this has been a rough game. Yeah, and you're here, you might as well fill both your potions. Doesn't make any sense not to. Alright, so we're gonna see what Swamp has for us. Looking for that elusive ice rod.
So yep, we've got this, we've got Pyramid Fairy, we've got Graveyard Ledge, we've got Pedestal, and if there's any other place that ice rod could be hiding, I cannot think of it at the moment.
We got Graveyard Ledge and Pyramid Fairy. Well, yeah, that'd be all that's left after this, I think. In Turtle Rock. So one way or another, we are definitely coming up on that ice rod very soon.
This guy having a little bit of trouble with that Mire too there.
Now, speaking from personal experience, that's a room I struggle with without sword beams.
Yeah, it's definitely a whole lot nicer when you can just chuck those beams without having to worry about spending magic on fire rod shots.
And you're wondering, if I were McMonkey, I'd probably commit to just going straight for Argus, ignoring that left side swamp unless the back turns up dry.
Yeah, I'm definitely of the when you're just in here for items, I'm a left side first person all the way, but there's certainly nothing wrong with doing backside first, because as soon as you find that ice rod, no matter where you find it, you're piecing out, and there's just more checks this way. The downside is that if it is on left side, it's quicker to do those checks if you do them first. So, oh,
And
but
there it is.
that was the correct answer today, was to do backside first. And McMonkey is in go mode here at an hour 18 and change.
Yep, so one last climb up the mountain, and it's always nice when you can, although technically not really, because you had to dip Turtle Rock in the first place, but it's always nice when you can save Turtle Rock or Hera for your last dungeon.
Yep, just feels good to grab that 7th crystal and just make that nice, easy walk over to GT. Or when you're in a boot start seed, that guaranteed run over to GT.
You wonder if McMonkey's going to take the time to pick up those silvers. They will be right on the way, but you wonder how much of a hurry he's feeling. And like tempered silverless Ganon is not terribly difficult.
Yeah, I think at that point it's less about the difficulty and more about the speed. Because 4 silver shots, especially if you're good at lining up those doubles and triples, that's going to be significantly faster than spins, even with tempered. And like you said, it's right there.
Yeah, I would probably grab the silvers.
I think most people would. It's almost certainly going to save you time in the long run, plus it's going to be more consistent.
And McMonkey has the benefit of being able to steal this key from the Pokey and just make his way on without checking the lava chests.
Yep, just a couple screen transitions. Maybe more if the key layout is such that by saving that key you can skip Laser Bridge. But every little bit when you're close to the end, this close to the end of the seed.
DarkenedSky needs to be a little careful here. Ah, he's got it. Let's talk about bosses that hit like a freight train. Vitreous is one of them.
Yep, Blue Mail helps some, but there's only so much it can do against lightning. Meanwhile, DarkenedSky is going to go ahead and check that checkerboard cave with his newfound mirror, but he's not going to find what he wants there.
Interesting to see if DarkenedSky is going to bet on... Well, he already knows TR is empty, so there's no choice but Swamp eventually.
Yep, and it looks like he knows this. He's getting ready to get up in that portal.
So that is a little bit of a benefit on the way Darkened played it, I guess. Knowing that TR is not the answer. Saves himself the guesswork.
Uh-oh. Looking over at McMonkey's side, so there is... He skipped the big chest, but it turns out he needed the small key in there. It's something like a 3% chance of that happening. And when it does, you just gotta shrug your shoulders and do that walk of shame back.
Yeah, there are definitely worse places to have overlooked it, but anytime you have to backtrack in a high stakes race like this, you can't help but feel a little bad about it.
Yeah, well, and it's it's easy for us sitting here with our knowledge of just what a lead he has to sit here and go, you're fine. Just backtrack. You got plenty of time, but he doesn't know that. He's got to be wondering, oh god, did the other guy play it safe? Is this all wasted time?
Yeah, when you have two very talented runners like this, yeah, you're coming up an hour and a half. You gotta be wondering just how close the other player is done. Now let's see if Darken's gonna go for back or go for left.
And an answer to a question in chat. Unfortunately, Mire does not help in this particular situation in Turtle Rock, because it would take you all the way back to the front entrance, which would lose you time overall. And it looks like DarkenedSky is going ahead and check the left side first. It's not nothing wrong with this play, but unfortunately we know it's not the answer. Oh, beautiful behind-the-back Trinex strats there for McMonkey.
And McMonkey has zero regard for Trinex's well-being right now. Alright, with crystal number 7 in hand, it is time to make the march to Ganon's Tower.
Yes, indeed. There is only one more item left to be located in the seed, and that's the legendary GT Big Key. There's 22 spots where it could potentially be hiding. If you have a guess, get it in chat now. There's no bot, there's no points, but there's honor and glory to be won in your hearts and the hearts of the other weirdos who watch this silly game with you.
Yeah, you'll have the honor of knowing that Ben and Lucy and Grief noticed you were right.
Oh, you're making a lot of assumptions about what I'm prepared to notice.
I'm a firm believer in 22 because I root for chaos. Unless I'm playing, then obviously it's 1.
I mean, that would be one of the few things that could conceivably close this gap at this point, would be the fabled Tile Room Big Key, if Sky made the meme play straight to Tile Room. It
would definitely be an eyebrow raiser, but it would be the correct play.
I think I've done that and had it pay out exactly once, and then it turned out that my opponent had already forfeited unbeknownst to me because of a real-world issue.
I remember a few months ago when when I was starting out doing Reddit asyncs, 3 weeks in a row, the Ganon's Tower Big Key was on Tile Room. Like, one time, okay, you know, it happens. Twice in a row, you know, you start to wonder. Like, 3 times in a row, though. 3 consecutive Tile Room Big Keys. You start to wonder if it's like a Plando or something.
Well, anything and all can and does happen in Randomizer.
It looks like McMonkey is doing Dark Magician routing through Ganon's Tower basements. Opting to go for the Stalfos room and then doing a full right side up to Compass.
Yep, of course, people have differing definitions of what constitutes a dark magician. There are people who tell you that a true dark magician would mean going all the way through here to Ice Armos, bypassing Rando Room.
Looks like that might be what we're getting. Nope, he's just getting a key.
Yeah, that would be the more usual option. Although having I'm fairly sure he could have safely left that small key behind were he so inclined. But now he doesn't need to murder any poor defenseless innocent Helmosaurs later.
Yep, God save the Helmosaurs. Alright, so Compass Room was not the route, so it's like it's either on left side or it's behind Ice Armos. And Samaria is not playing nice.
No, McMonkey's having some... Oh my! What a rude Stelphos.
Samaria is intercepted by the Stelphos.
And unfortunately, DarkenedSky not going to be able to pick up any time by going straight to the big chest. He's making the odds-on play as McMonkey finds himself his big key.
Yep, and now we make our climb to the gauntlet. Whichever check that was, I don't know. If you guessed right, congrats. I was not counting.
So yeah, I told you not to assume things about what I'm prepared to notice.
I just noticed, looks like McMonkey decided to forego the silvers, technically right in front of Ganon's tower, which, again, that's one of those things, they're right there at the same time. Do you want to spend the time to get them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple of screen transitions. I think they'll typically save you that much time in the Ganon fight alone, and they let you one cycle Landmo 2 without having to spend magic for fire rod shots. I'd consider it worth it, but it's something we can make a mental note to ask him if he favors us with an interview later. If that's something that even crossed his mind. Oh no, Vortex of Doom corrects us in chat. You cannot mirror out, grab them, and go straight back to GT. That would be... To do it that way, you would have had to climb up the mountain that way on the way to Turtle Rock. Doing it right before GT would commit you to another mountain climb. So with that being the case, yeah, the time to get them was earlier.
Yeah, yeah, definitely obviously makes sense not to get them on the way to GT then. Thank you, Vortex. Alright, McMonkey has made pretty short work of the gauntlet.
Yep, nice clutch magic refill there, not needing to dip into his safeties to light these torches. And DarkenedSky is continuing to play catch-up. He has to go and kill the moth before he's ready to enter GT.
Oh, I completely forgot about Mothula.
Yeah, unfortunately that's an easy mistake to make. You get the 2 items out of there early and just put it out of your mind, but you do eventually have to go back and actually kill the moth, at least when it's a crystal. McMonkey taking down Moldorm 2 with a minimum of trouble. Skipping the validation chest. He knows that he's valid no matter what that chest has to say about it.
It looks like Moldorm got its trolling out of the way back during the Moldorm 1 fight. Alright, time for everyone's favorite geometry wizard, Aga 2. It's a night. Oh, never mind. Just nothing but singles so far.
Yeah, had a decent setup for at least a double there, but sometimes the D-pad just doesn't want to cooperate with you and get you facing the right way. And the wizard goes down. The Moth, with his very RNG-dependent movement patterns, is not being quite as kind to Sky, but he does eventually go down as well.
Yeah, McMonkey cleaved through Moth like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, that's... Moth is one of those boss fights that yes, requires a great deal of skill and reflexes, but sometimes even with the best skill in the world, if he's going to hide like a coward on the spikes where he's invincible, there's not much you can do but wait it out.
Alright, we're getting right into the Ganon fight.
Oof, McMonkey taking a little bit of a trident hug there. Gonna have to be a little careful. I didn't think to see what he had in his bottles.
Some nice dash pokes from McMonkey there. And one hit for the road, too.
Yeah.
That was a bold sword slash there at the end there.
Yeah. Paid out with an extra hit. And on into the next phase.
Alright, with phase 3, the immediate danger Ganon poses is pretty much over.
Yeah, at this point, it's less a matter of safety and more a matter of efficiency. Are you going to be able to manage your mana properly? Are you going to be able to make the torch glitch? Are you going to be able to set up those triples?
And pulls off the torch glitch without a hitch. Pardon the rhyme.
Oop. Does take a bat hit there. So his health is definitely closing in on critical.
I know it's 12 hits, but I'd be lying if I said I was keeping track.
I can barely keep track of these things when I'm the one doing the fight. But
we know that was
regardless.
12.
Yep, that was 12 right there. The pig goes down. Get your GGs in chat. McMonkey has but to cross the bridge to claim the Triforce and become today's winner.
And with an official time of 1 hour, 37 minutes, and 23 seconds, McMonkey takes the race and continues on in the tournament.
Yes, indeed. A very respectable time for a seed that sent our runners into all 3 pendant dungeons for progression.
Looks like DarkenedSky is opting to finish up the seed, which, might as well. You're close to the end. Play for honor.
Yep, GT is one of those things that you are going to need to do every seed you run, unless you make a habit of fast Ganon modes. So, Might as well knock the sucker out and get the practice in. And looking ahead in the brackets, it looks like McMonkey will be facing off against Krithel in the next round. As unfortunately, DarkenedSky is going to be knocked out at this point, this being a double elimination tournament. Both of our runners had gotten one loss on their records up until this point, meaning that each was playing for their tournament life, and indeed will be continuing to do so every match from this point going forward.
And this room is not being friendly to either player.
And we'll see whether we can get our winner in here for an interview in a little bit here. In the meantime, DarkenedSky has gotten his GT big key, and he's going to begin his gauntlet climb. Oh, and we are... Oh, sorry. Mistook something on my screen.
Well, while we're here, everyone be sure to give our racers a follow. Our tracker, Akuhish. And who's our restreamer?
I believe that Roti took care of setup and cropping duties today. Believe he had to take off since then, but we are now joined by McMonkey. Congratulations.
GG.
Thanks.
So how do you feel about having to dip every single pendant dungeon for progression?
Yeah, I mean, that didn't feel great. I felt pretty good at how quickly I got the items out of pod. And I actually feel pretty decent about how I routed this. I didn't put off ice till absolute last, but certainly cleared a lot of things that I didn't have to in the overworld. Once I got the Mire out of Misery Mire, I was pretty certain, based on the way the sea had gone up to this point, I was pretty certain it was going to be Swamp Palace was the answer, and that was the numbers play.
Yep, definitely noticed some skips on your part, skipping Helma. Nothing too crazily aggressive, but it definitely seemed like you were looking to cut some corners where you could.
Yeah, I try to balance the risk that I'm taking on. So, after skipping Helma, I kind of went out of my way to clean up a couple of things before I left behind Purple Chest, for example. I went and did Smith Chain over to Catfish to Pyramid before going into Ice, just to not leave those. That was probably a little too conservative, but I try to keep a mental log of how much I've skipped, and certainly, the big skip, the big aggressive play was leaving Turtle Rock as soon as I found that Quake.
Yep, and we were saying that was a good way to hedge your bets, because at that point you can clear Mire. You don't know if you can clear Turtle Rock, so A, B, C, D.
Yeah, exactly. And I could certainly see the case for continuing through TR and full clearing that before leaving. And if I had the Mire, that's probably what I do. But without the Mire, if Mire is in Mire or somewhere else, then I'm really orphaning Mimic Cave. I can't save a portal, so I'm gonna have to go all the way back through TR anyway. So I felt like I wasn't really losing a whole lot of time, other than the fact that it's just a nice run hunt. So if it's in TR, so be it. I last locate it and I lose. I'm willing to take that chance on a 4 out of however many checks there were left.
Yeah, and absolutely ended up being the right call to dip out of Turok before getting all the way to Laser Bridge.
Yeah, and I felt pretty good about that. As soon as I found the mirror, it felt terrible because it's just, the tracker lights up with a lot of checks that are not easy to route together. So, I was furiously trying to plan a route that would most efficiently clean them up with Swamp Palace somewhere relatively early in that route, given how many items there were in the dungeon.
Yep, we did also notice you went ahead and went into the back of Swamp Palace first rather than going left side. Will you share anything with us about what goes into that decision?
Well, one from Go, I feel like it's a no-brainer. I had found the map at that point, so I knew there was at least one item on the left side. So that was, it would have preferred to not find either map or compass before going to the back. But I think even with map and compass as the first two, I'd probably go back first, just because it's so much faster for those checks. You're getting 3 checks pretty quickly. Argus is not far behind versus a much bigger time investment to get the 2 on the left side. It is a little slower to go back in, but I was willing to take that chance. Worst case scenario would be doing left side and having the big key on Argus. You got to go back in anyway.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was about to say, over on the left-hand side of the screen, speaking of left side, we are about to see the Ganon fight from DarkenedSky here.
One of the big things I noticed, like some of the boss execution, like you cleaved right through Mothula, like not even 5 seconds.
Well, I've been playing a lot of NMG lately, but on Moth, a lot of it is how much Moth is going to cooperate. There are some things you can do to try to make it consistently fast with dash books and all, and I'm not very consistent with those. So I think I was just lucky that Moth came down within shouting distance of me. I felt pretty good about my execution about up to go mode, and then it became a dumpster fire after that point, from my standards anyway.
Well, that's the thing about those last 20 minutes when you're done and you get to watch the restream catching up to you. You only see the flaws, even on a win. I've been there.
Yeah, that's fair. Although some flaws are easier to spot than others. DarkenedSky showing off how you actually do again in phase 1 and phase 2 compared to my whatever it was, a 2 and 2, 3 and 2, something like that.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, something else that the chat did point out is that both yourself and DarkenedSky opted to put off Spike Cave until rather late, and also never went back for those silver arrows up there on Spectacle.
Yeah, well, Spike Cave was just me forgetting. That was the plan. I was sort of buying myself a little bit of time in doing King's Tomb up through Old Man, and the plan was to end at Spike Cave, save and quit, and then go do other things. And I just got distracted and lost track of Spike Cave after checking Spec Rock. So that was just a mental goof on my part there. And similarly, the silvers, I just was in my head thinking, I'll just mirror right before GT, and realized about when I was walking through the door of TR that, yeah, that's not possible.
And moonwalking across the bridge, DarkenedSky has roasted the pig.
Yes, indeed. Finishing off with looked like about an hour 47 before his timer reset, and it looks like we are joined by DarkenedSky. GG, sir.
Hey,
GG.
thanks.
GG.
GG's Monkey. All I really want to say at the beginning here is I do not like seeds that open up immediately and then force you to go independent dungeons. They're fantastic.
Yeah, I think I agree. It felt like, coming out of CAC, getting the pearl off the shovel spot. I thought, oh, maybe this is a jet seed. This might be a 1-0 something. And yeah, the seed had other ideas.
And then the pendant dungeons came along and said, "Nah, dude."
Yeah, force dips into all 3 pendant dungeons for progression is always a fun time.
And I guess just to acknowledge the elephant in the room, of course, the deciding factor of the race being that DarkenedSky pieced out of Ice Palace after finding that hook shot.
Yeah, so there was actually half a reason for that. So I knew I didn't have enough magic to kill both Freezors. And so I was like, you know what? I have 2 of the items. The whole mountain's open. I'll bail later. I have since learned that there's a small magic in that room and I could have saved it. But at the time, it just seemed like the right decision. Obviously, it was it was not.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. I actually thought that after picking up the flute, I did iced tea into Freezors and realized that was a possibility that someone might just choose to dip out after the hook shot. Yeah, that's unfortunate with the magic situation.
It was pretty bad.
But besides that, you two were pretty much on top of each other for a majority of this game.
Well, that's good to hear. I was, I don't know if you guys could tell early on, I was dealing with pretty extreme nerves. These tournaments, I don't know why, I just get super, super nervous. And then on top of that, after all the execution fails, I was dealing with tilt as well, so it was just a bad time.
Yeah, it's much easier watching these races than it is playing in them, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Even more so when you're giving the play-by-play.
It's definitely easy to look back afterwards and see exactly what you should have done. But up until then, you never know. Rando's rando. It's different every time.
Yeah, considering just how much that hook shot opened up to you, I was certainly, you'll find if you watch back through the VOD that I was saying, I get this play. This play makes a lot of sense. It just sucks that it does. It's gonna hurt him a whole lot. Well, looking forward into the brackets, McMonkey, it looks like you'll be facing up against Krithel next. Any thoughts on that match?
I think it's going to be a good match. I'm looking forward to it. I can't remember if I've gone head-to-head against Krithel in any ladder matches or anything like that, but certainly respect his skill. Surprised to see him down in the lower bracket, if I'm being honest. But it'll be another stressful match against another good opponent. So we'll see what happens. I'll just keep working at it and hope I can limp through to another round.
Yep, well then, the way this double elimination system works, it does not take much for even a very talented runner to wind up down in the lower bracket, so I think we're definitely getting to the point where if there were ever any safe matches in this, they're coming fewer and farther between.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. There's a lot of good runners, and expanding to 128. I think it's great for the community to, because there's a lot of good up and coming runners, that have been putting in work, getting better very quickly. So it's sometimes hard to keep up with all of the good runners in the community now.
Yeah, we even had a handful of runners from the most recent mentor tournament making the 128 bracket. I was not one of them.
Brackets definitely get tougher every year. I've been playing Rando for almost 4 years now, and it's definitely not gotten any easier.
Yes, indeed. Well, if folks are looking for more Rando to watch, looking at the schedule ahead, it looks like that's going to be it for the SGL SpeedGaming Live tournament for this evening. But currently over in SpeedGaming 4 on the Link to the Past Randomizer Invitational League, we've got Waffle House Drive-Thru versus Boomer Friendly going on right now. And starting in a little over an hour on SpeedGaming Prime, we're going to have Plasma Kappa of Tile Roomies versus Oase 28 of 2 Pearl, 2 Furious. That's the restream schedule for this evening, with just a plethora of races coming up later in the week. Restream schedules to be determined. If you're interested in making more restreams possible by volunteering to track or commentate, I believe our lovely bot just dropped the link for that a little bit up chat. But beyond that, any final words for the folks at home?
Just GG again to DarkenedSky, and thanks to the restream. Thanks to you, Ben and Lucian, for doing the commentary on here, and thanks to our tracker. It's it's not easy work, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot for putting this on. Thanks for everyone who stuck around to watch me play my Clown Seed. You guys are great.
Well, thank you both for putting on a wonderful show for us here today. Thank you to Akuhish for tracking for us, and to Roti for setting things up, getting things cropped, and to everybody behind the scenes at the SpeedGaming Network. And last but not least, to Lucian Greeth for co-comming with me.
That was definitely a good time. Fun seed. Fun discussions.
I think that's going to do it for this evening. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.